From the studios at 77 Monroe Center in downtown Grand Rapids, this is West Michigan Live with Neil Dion on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
Yeah, it's another scratchy-eyed, tired Wednesday morning because we have all these primaries on Tuesday, and yesterday was Super Tuesday 2, if you will. And with a couple of big winner-take-all states like Ohio and Florida last night, it was quite a show. I admit I was prepared for it. I got out all of the data that I had amassed over the past week. I got into my favorite chair in my jammies and enjoyed the whole hot mess last night. To get a perspective from a professional who watches things much more closely than I and can interpret things far better than I reached out to one of my favorite guests in the world, political strategist, author, and public speaker. She's a wildly popular talk radio guest and host. Her website, ladiescanwetalk.org. Debbie Georgatos, good morning.
Good morning, Neil. Thanks so much for having me on.
Well, what time did you finally turn the light off last night?
I was going to say I just stayed up, but no, I tried to stay up to see if they would finally call Missouri. And, I was up really, it was around midnight. And I guess they still have not called Missouri. They're still calling it I guess they're recounting. It's too close to call.
Yeah, it was like 0.2 of a percentage point or something at midnight, I think, when I cashed him in. But, yeah, I will say this, that most of the polling that I saw over the last week was borne out last night. Actually, it was pretty close to what predictions had been.
Yes, it was actually different from 2 weeks ago when a lot of the polling was pretty off. Yes, last night was much closer. What a wild night.
It was indeed. I had a feeling, just a feeling, nothing more than that, but I just knowing how popular John Kasich is in his home state, he romped through there. I don't see his path, but he could be a big, important dude come convention time unless Trump just keeps on winning.
He certainly could. You know, John Kasich, he won his re-election to governor in Ohio a few years ago. I don't have that. I think it was like at 60%. He first won his first race for governor there by unseating an incumbent Democrat, and then by a very healthy margin. So he's very popular in a state that has, you know, as you know, it's a big swing state. It has a lot of Democrats and a lot of Republicans. So he's been able to find that place politically that both parties can vote for him and be happy with him. And so, yeah, I was not at all surprised he took Ohio. And it does. I'm actually kind of sorry for America because it keeps him in the race. And I think that the people, actually both Mr. Trump and Senator Cruz have been saying, this would be better if it were two people. Let's get it down to two people. But I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, but the thing of it is they're down to two people that nobody seems to like personally, at least from the establishment point of view.
You know, yes, and I was seeing this talk again tomorrow. There's supposedly a big meeting, a big secret meeting of the GOP establishment insiders trying to decide what are we going to do about this. I actually think that GOP, I used to say they disliked Cruz the most of all because he knows the system there. But I think they're actually going to have to choose between Trump and Cruz. And I think they'll begrudgingly get behind Senator Cruz because he's kind of the devil you do know.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody knows what to expect from Trump. I mean, I suggested to the guys on the morning show today that, you know, what if, hypothetically, what if Donald Trump were to trim his sails a little bit and make himself more appealing to moderate Republicans, whether they might actually coalesce around him should he do that? And what if he were to tap a Rubio or a Cruz as a running mate in the final thing? Maybe, you know, it could work. Then again, you could have, say, for example, a Cruz-Rubio ticket, which would be the anti-Trump ticket, and that might actually work. But we have no idea what's going to happen.
We really don't. This is the oddest year. And, you know, another factor in all this is that Mr. Trump tends to win in states. He's more likely to win when they have open primaries that when you go in on primary day, you can just decide whether I'm going to vote in the Republican or the Democrat primary. And so this argument that the party should listen to its base voting for, because they seem to be choosing Mr. Trump, I think there's a significant chunk of the GOP base that really isn't choosing Mr. Trump. And so I think there's a viable argument that this is an unhappy choice for a lot of the GOP primary voters. So I think my favorite scenario would be what you just said, Neil, which would be to have a Cruz-Rubio banded together ticket right out from today forward as kind of that's who's running against Donald Trump. I think that would be helpful. That would be a winner. You
know what else I think? And I said this to the guys this morning on their show, and I said it once before on this program. What if, here again, let's just, play the harp music and drift away and imagine for a moment. What if Trump and Cruz were able to get together? Or what if Cruz and Rubio got together? If they were to reach into that long 17-member Republican field and say, for example, okay, we're going to anoint Chris Christie Attorney General. We're going to make Lindsey Graham the Secretary of Defense. Carly Fiorina is going to be our Secretary of State. Ben Carson is going to be our Attorney General. They amass all those people on that Republican side and then say, go for it, Hillary.
I just love those kind of ideas, especially the really popular people with conservatives. One among the field that did run, I think picking some of the top players would be an excellent idea. And I think it also just sends a signal, because if a person has an aversion, say, for example, to Senator Rubio or Senator Cruz, if they see figures they liked, popular figures who would agree and say, yes, if Senator Cruz wins the presidency, I will be his Attorney General. I will be his Surgeon General. I think it broadens the field and warms people up to a candidate, the top candidate for presidency that they might not have otherwise done. I think it'd be brilliant. I think people have been talking about it for months. I hope there are actual negotiations going on right now about that.
You know that people are talking. They're burning up their cell phones ever since Rubio dropped out last night, trying to figure out the direction that the party wants to go. And then we'll get to the other side here in a couple of minutes. I do want to let our listeners know you're welcome to join in this conversation. You got a feeling about what happened last night? What would be the dream ticket? Would it be a Trump Kasich? Would it be a Cruz Rubio? What do you think it would take to win? I would also like our listeners' thoughts on whether or not Hillary might actually reach out to Bernie Sanders now that, the burn has been extinguished, as one headline I read said. I mean, Trump's at 621 delegates now. Cruz at 395. Rubio's done. There's 168. Oh, and Kasich only won the one state. He's got the 138 from his home state. But the thing about this is, and some people were talking about this yesterday, it's a very complicated process, the way you end a campaign. You don't end a campaign. If you end that campaign, your delegates are released. If you suspend your campaign, that's a temporary measure that allows you to, clean up, pay the bills, and also basically assign or offer your delegates to another candidate. And that's why everyone always suspends rather than, says, I quit. But I tell you what, it's just fixing to get more interestinger.
It is, and I'm glad you point. That is exactly the difference between why people keep saying they suspend their campaign. On the subject of Senator Rubio, I'll just say I thought it was interesting. That was among the most eloquent speeches that he gave last night when he announced that he's suspending his campaign. Yeah. And afterwards, his campaign manager, Avik Roy, tweeted out, it's time for all Rubio supporters and all conservatives to unite around Ted Cruz. So maybe that's a hint of what they are thinking. I don't think he would have done that unless Senator Rubio okayed it. Yeah. So I'm going to guess maybe Senator Rubio is going to say, we got to get behind Senator Cruz.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Marco Rubio kissed Ted's ring from the podium last night, and I think that you will see them join forces. Not necessarily number one and number two, but they will work together to campaign to make sure that Trump doesn't get it. But I don't know whether that's possible or whether he can be stopped. You'd need 1237 to win. He's at 621, but he's got to get more than 50% of the remaining delegates in the other states that lie ahead. We'll get a little deeper into this in a second, and also want to hear from you. Come on, join us in the conversation here. What do you think's going to happen? What do you want to see happen? 774-2424. That's 616-774-2424. We're on with Debbie Georgatos here on West Michigan Live, News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
This is West Michigan Live with Neil Dion on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
I was buying gas the other day, and I was standing there next to the pump, and I looked over, and the guy beside me at the next pump was wearing a T-shirt that simply said, "I don't like any of them." My guest is Debbie Georgatos, political strategist, author and speaker and radio talk show host, and she can fix the sink. She's incredibly talented. Welcome back, Debbie. And our phones are full. Is it okay if we jump in there?
Absolutely.
All right, let's do this. I want to make sure that you can hear them first before we get going. Hey, Rick, come on in here. Rick's in Coldwater. Let's make sure Debbie can hear you down the line. Say hello.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you. Hi,
Excellent.
Rick.
Hi, Rick. Go ahead.
I got involved in the Republican Party. I'm a delegate. I got involved in '08, and I actually was campaigning for Ron Paul in '08 and in '12. And, we were chanting things like, bring the troops home and end the Federal Reserve. Now I hear Trump people out there chanting for a wall. This stuff is surreal. This is a reality TV show host. I never watched his show. I'm 52. I grew up with Donald Trump. I've never liked the guy. This is a billionaire playboy who just runs around and figures he can say and do whatever he wants. In 2010, this guy is supporting Democrats. I mean, $50,000 to Rahm Emanuel in Chicago. You don't give that kind of money to one of the most partisan Democrats of all time. What do you get for that? I don't buy the idea, and, there's still plenty of time for us to just you got to coalesce around Cruz at this point. You're going to have to bite the bullet. The public has soundly rejected the establishment, which is the Lindsey Grahams, which is the Rubios, which is the John McCains. These people have ruined the party. The Mitch McConnells, the deal makers. I mean, Boehner's gone now. I mean, the Republican Party has been slow off the mark. I saw this coming years ago. This is not a surprise to me. And the idea that, Trump has got all this, I can't believe people are this ignorant. Keep looking into the guy, because everything he talks about now, he's already lied about in the past. He is a liberal. His ideology is for himself and money. I mean, I don't want a deal maker in there.
Okay.
His whole life has been full of lawsuits and dirty deals.
Okay.
And I mean,
Rick, maybe the party should have hired you some time back. I don't know. Debbie, observation?
I think I agree with your caller. I think that Donald Trump's popularity is entirely due to the anger of the GOP conservative voting base at Washington after the 2010 and 2014 big majorities Republican voters gave the GOP in Washington, and just watched them essentially fritter it away, not stand up, not fight for all the things they promised to. So I think that Donald Trump's major selling point to most GOP voters is just he's an outsider. They almost couldn't tell you what he thinks or cares about on many issues. They just want someone because they're angry at the politician. So this coalescing around Ted Cruz, to me, is the only answer for the people really angry at Washington, but also who want good answers, good conservative, solid policy. You got to get behind someone who's actually saying and has shown through his life, which is Ted Cruz, that he actually stands for good, solid conservative policy.
Yeah, this is not an original thought. I heard a pundit say this last night, and I thought it was so right on. She said, look, the country was getting fed up, so they gave the Republicans the Congress in 2010. Nothing changed. They were still fed up, so they gave the Republicans the Senate in 2014. And again, nothing changed. And the reason people are rushing for Trump is they want a punisher. They want a sledgehammer that's not going to take any crap from the establishment because they haven't done anything. And I thought, you know what? That's pretty close to the truth.
I absolutely agree. And, I think these debates have been for the serious conservatives like your caller and others who aren't just in politics to win, but they actually think about policies, what changes would be good for America, what we need to do to get the country back on track. Those people keep listening to Donald Trump and waiting for him to say something of substance, and he doesn't. Even last night, in every other speech you hear him in, it's kind of a recounting of how popular I am and how big the numbers are.
Yeah, that's getting old.
Statistics. It's nothing. It's just no substance.
Yeah. Let's go to John, who's listening in Jenison this morning. Hi, John.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good.
Good. Hey, I just wanted to say, I've been following this campaign real heavy, and while I may like Donald Trump as a person, I think as a candidate he's a horrible choice, only because he absolutely doesn't even know the basics of the Constitution. He says he knows the Bible. He obviously doesn't know the Bible. Ultimately the one he takes all his direction from is himself, and he really kind of worships at the foot of power, not what's right, and doesn't expect any coming judgment or anything. One thing I have found is that in the Senate, Trump is trying to make Cruz look like an insider, and he's trying to make himself look like the outsider, but in reality, Cruz is the ultimate outsider fighting to break up all the insiders. And that's why most of the people in the Senate, especially Mitch McConnell, hate Ted Cruz, because he is the outsider trying to break it up and give the power back to the people instead of the John Boehners, the Mitch McConnells, the Paul Ryans, and just letting Obama basically get away with whatever he wants. It really makes me nervous having Mitch McConnell at the helm of the Senate when we have Obama just knowing he can railroad over Mitch McConnell and nobody's going to stand up to him. Ted Cruz would not allow this to happen, obviously wouldn't nominate a liberal to be on the Supreme Court, and Obama will end up making this look like a race or religion issue with the Supreme Court. So I think what's going to happen from here on forward is you're going to see Cruz actually start picking up big time and winning a majority of these states, because up until now he's gotten almost no press. Trump, I don't know what the statistics are, but I have to believe that Trump is getting 80% of just the free press right now.
Yeah, the free press, they calculated it up yesterday. They figured it came to about $400 million in free recognition on the networks. John, thanks very much for the call. I have less than a minute. Do we have time to get Matthew in real quick? Matthew is in South Haven. Go ahead, Matthew. Very limited time.
I would like to say really quick that this all dates back to 2004. I'm a Trump supporter. In 2004, you got John McCain going out making campaign appearances with John Kerry when George W. Bush is running for re-election. Then 4 years later, the party gives him the nomination. And all of us true conservatives were just outraged that we kept getting drug along. You need to support the candidate, but nobody wants to support us. So I'm going to support Trump, even though he is a jerk, and he probably isn't a conservative. And I'm going to support him just to stick it to the party.
That's what everybody's thinking. All right.
It doesn't matter who we nominate. We get the same crap. People need to study civics, and they need to find out that we need to change the Senate and the House.
Good points, Matthew. Thank you very much. Debbie, I can find no fault with anything anybody said this morning.
Absolutely. Your caller, John, who said that Cruz is the ultimate outsider, I think that's right. And in an odd way, Trump is the ultimate insider. Even though he's never held political office, he has been, as we've been talking about the last half an hour, been a big donor to many, many Democrats over the last decades. It wasn't 40 years ago. It is like within the last 4 years, donating to Rahm Emanuel, donating to Hillary.
Yeah.
It is really the insider crony capitalist game that Donald Trump has played his whole professional life. That is, to me, shows him to be the ultimate insider.
Well, Debbie, I always feel smarter after talking to you. Thank you very much.
Same to you.
For being on our show again. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you, Neil.
That is Debbie Georgatos, political strategist, author, and public speaker. Very talented talk radio host as well. Check out her site, ladiescanwetalk.org. We're going to take a quick break. Why can't I talk? Sleep deprived. That's it. Back in a minute on West Michigan Live.